This little boy is so smart. He saw a man's socks were torn when he was shining his shoes. He immediately saw a business opportunity and offered him a new pair of socks for $100. He didn't realize that the man was in a hurry to leave because he didn't want to pay him for shining his shoes. He chased him out to get the money just as he saw the man struggling with his car stuck in the mud. So he starts to make a deal. If I can get the car out, will you give me the money for the socks? The man didn't believe him. He thought he was making fun of him. Jack immediately took the used coal nearby and smashed it on the ground. Sure enough, the car came out in no time. The man saw that he was really something, but he didn't give him any money and told the driver to leave as soon as he got in the car. Jack had no choice but to meet such a scoundrel. Then he heard the secretary next to him say that if he didn't find the gravel, the company would close down. He had an idea immediately. But soon the court sent someone to confiscate the man's belongings and seized his house. And the bank loan application was also returned. The man was overwhelmed by all this. All he could do was drink his sorrows away. At that moment, Jack came to him and said he could help him fill in the project. The man saw that he was dreaming how he could replace the sand and stone for the house with coal ash and kicked him out in anger. It's a big deal for the family. Anna came to her father and told him that if he couldn't support her, he'd send her to her real mother. The man said he wouldn't agree no matter what she said and told her to go back in the cold. At that moment, he was about to light the coal when he suddenly remembered Jack's words. There was nothing better to do now, so he took a gamble. So he wrapped up the used coal and prepared to take it out to find someone to study it. As soon as he left the house, he was surrounded by workers who demanded money. He ran away quickly. When they found out that his project was going to be delayed, they smashed his company's signboard. Anna saw the result of his father's hard work being trampled on. At that moment, she realized how difficult it was for her father. The man then approached the director of the research institute and asked him to study whether coal ash could be used in the project instead of sand and gravel. But the director told him it would take at least 5 days for the results to come out. The man had to wait for news. But in the meantime, he was constantly being asked to hand over the project. He had to hide everywhere and had nowhere else to go. So he ran to Jack's place. Seeing the leftovers on the floor, he ate them without thinking about it. Jack came in and looked disgusted when he saw him devouring the food. He was so scared that he sat back and the two of them stared blankly at each other. After eating, he asked Jack for money. He also asked him to deliver a letter to his friend and tell him the situation so that he could help out. Jack didn't want to help him, but he was Anna's father. He made his way to the barracks and was stopped by soldiers. Jack turns around and sees a figure but doesn't recognize it as his long-lost brother. The two brothers passed each other by. This once big boss is now reduced to the beggar for food and asked the beggar boss whether there is rice. A potato he cannot eat enough. Boss look at his face upset and let him pay the money before. The man said, if you do not treat me well, you can never shine shoes in front of my door again. After eating, he asked Jack for a pair of socks. Jack took out his notebook and said he'd have to pay back for the food and drinks. He asked Jack to tell the kids to keep his secret and not let anyone know he's here. Jack said you cannot worry about it. Soon rival President Hong found the beggar boss told him if he saw the boss to tell him will give him 20,000 yuan reward. Hearing the eyes are glowing and ready to tell him when Jack came up to interrupt his words. The two almost fought because of this incident. Jack warned him not to tell anyone. It didn't take long for the boy to realize that the money in his piggy bank was gone and he came in to ask the man about it. The man said he was innocent. The boy thought that no one but him would steal his money, but the man refused to admit it. He left in a rage. When he came out, he met Jack and got angry with him. Jack came in and asked him if you really didn't steal the money. The man still looked like how could I have stolen the money? When Jack left, he took out the money and said he wouldn't take their money for nothing. The boy's side is not willing since he lost the money, then go to report him to get back the 20,000 yuan reward. Directly call the president to tell him where the man is. The president knew and immediately came to the man back to sign the seal to withdraw from the project and had him kidnapped. Jack rushed to the man's company and asked Anna and the company staff to stall for time. He went to find the director of the institute. The man was forced to sign out of the project. He had no choice but to say that the idea of using coal ash to replace sand and gravel caused everyone to laugh, because there was no scientific evidence. If the foundation was unstable, people would die. The man said the results of the study would be out soon and asked everyone to wait a little longer. But the president of the company pressed him to sign the papers. He took the opportunity to escape but was quickly pushed to the ground by several men. Anna came and saw her father being bullied and rushed in to tell him that Jack had told him to stall for as long as possible. The man asked them to give him 1 more hour. Jack is on his way here with the director. The men also said that time was up and asked him to stop struggling and sign the papers. He had no choice but to put his fingerprints on it. When they were about to leave, Jack and his men arrived. The director of the Geological Institute announced the results of a study, proving that coal ash can be used as a substitute for sand in landfill projects. Applause erupted at the end of his speech. It's a good thing for all of them that they can dispense with sand and gravel for landfills and that they don't have to worry about where to dispose of the coal ash. They all thanked the man, but the president said that the contract to withdraw from the project had already been signed. According to the agreement, the project should be handed over to them. The people were against it. After all, the men had solved a big problem for them, but the public outcry was too great. In order to win the hearts of the people, the director tore up the contract. The man was so excited that he hugged Jack, Who was the one who made this suggestion? He took Jack back to his home and prepared a nice dinner for him to thank him. Jack had never seen so much food. And the lady on the other side looked disgusted with him and said, "Why did you bring a beggar back to say that you have to work here from now on?" Jack heard that he did not want to work in his house and said that he came to ask for money and then left. The account book out to the old Huang total of $3,000 plus interest, together $5,000. But the man didn't want to give it to him and told him to live in his house and go to school and send him to the best school. Feed him, house him and educate him. But the man's wife had a problem with it and put his room in the basement. She warned him that he'd have to work hard if he was going to live here on his own. He had to help with the sweeping and mopping. Jack introduced himself to the man's son, and he slapped his hand away. Jack just sighed and walked into the basement. It was a terrible place to be, but as he lay on the floor, he thought of Anna with a happy face. His lost sister was at the orphanage. The director was going to give her to a couple to adopt. Kate was crying so hard that her two brothers would come looking for her. She didn't want to be adopted and then her brothers wouldn't be able to find her. The director looked at her and felt very sorry for her. In the end, the couple had to give him up. On the brother's side, he betrayed the U.S. Army. Someone said that if they helped him get the secret documents, he could work for the Intelligence Bureau and they could take him with them. Even if the mission fails, his safety will be guaranteed. Jim knew he was powerful and thought he'd have to get inside the enemy to get revenge. So he told the man all the real information. He also helped him steal classified documents and gave them to him to win the man's heart so that he could live in his house. His son is back. The man introduced Jim to him and said they'd be brothers from now on. But he ignored Jim. Jim came to his room and looked at the man's family portrait and listened to the laughter from downstairs. But it was so harsh. His own family is dead and his father's murderer is doing just fine. Today is Jack's first day of school. He was very nervous and kept fixing his appearance in front of the mirror. Anna came over to hurry him to be late. The two of them ran to catch the bus. On the bus, Anna didn't stand still and fell on another boy. The boy said something rude to Anna again. The boys next to him were making fun of him. Jack came to Anna's defense, which made the two of them enemies from the very first time they met. And coincidentally, they were in the same class as him. Because of his father's relationship, the boy's status in the class is very important. He went straight to the podium to organize the students. Jack asked his classmates why he decided these things instead of the teacher. He said he was worse than the teacher. Jack didn't like his behavior and started a fight with him. On his way home from class, Jack was blocked by the boys' followers. Jack wasn't afraid of them and fought with them. He beat up several of them, but he couldn't go after his foster father's son. The fat man guessed he wouldn't dare do anything to him, so he teased him about being a shoe shiner and slapped him across the face. When they got home, their foster father asked them about their test scores. Anna had dropped 5 places from the last exam. His son came in 38th place, and his father was very angry with him. Jack scored 0 and was the lowest in the school. The man looked at him and asked him to be in the top 10 next time if he didn't do it. He should stop studying and follow him to the construction site. Anna brought Jack a pile of study materials and told him to study hard. Jack obediently listened to Anna and stayed up all night to study. The next day Anna smiled when she saw his work and rewarded him with a bike ride and a run. Both of them were very happy. Jack promised her that he would be number 1 in the exams. Then he stayed up so late to study that his nose bled. Of course, his grades were improving. Both of them went up to do the problems at the same time and even the boy was left behind. The boy was amazed at how the bottom one improved so fast.